Hey fam, what's good? I hope the show well and keeping safe. Welcome back to another one. I hope you all had an amazing week. I hope you all had an amazing weekend as well. I hope you all are also prepared for this coming week as well, right? So as I made mention on my Instagram, right? So the COT report data is delayed for this week, right? Due to the US Independence Day holiday on the 4th, right? So we may only find ourselves seeing the data come through over the course of next week, right? So yeah, that's that. And another thing, you know what? Head over to my Instagram page at Takeover Forex Institute, right? Make sure to hit a follow, right, and show us some love, right? Just a little message, the most recent message I have found myself uploaded. I do know that it is kind of hard, you know what, uploading every single day, right? But we are trying to be more active on our page, right? So as we are stepping into a new week, right? Remember this: not every day or not every week has to be a trading week, right? And not every day has to be a trading day, right? Now, we chase setups, we watch the charts, we feel FOMO, right? But the real edge isn't just in the entries, right? It's in knowing when to wait. That is super important, right? So you guys can come over to my actual page, show some love. I will highly appreciate that, right? But nonetheless, let's tap into our charts, right, and see what we can potentially expect for this coming week. All right, so starting off from our monthly time frame, we do have 25 days and 13 hours for this candle to find itself closing. You know what? There is a lot that can still find itself happening within our monthly time frame, right? Now, one thing we can see is that we did find ourselves having what? A clear higher high, right? So, with that being said, with us creating that higher high, there is now a possibility for us having that actual pushback towards the downside before having that further continuation move back towards the upside, right? It's number one, we find ourselves creating a higher high. Number two, we have found ourselves taking out liquidity as well, right? Number three would literally be we have a whole lot of magnets below price over here, right? But we're not gonna find ourselves tapping into that as if now. You know what? Only when we are gonna see that pullback coming through, then we can find ourselves looking at the magnets we have found ourselves creating on our monthly time frame, right? Now let's scale over to our weekly time frame, right? This area of demand is an area that I found myself boxing out previously, so please do make sure you go through to our previous content as well, right? And you will basically find yourself having somewhat of an understanding to why this area is at where it is, right? So weekly time frame, once again, we can see that we did find ourselves taking out these relatively equal highs. Higher high has been created, so there is a possibility for us then having somewhat of an actual shift back towards the downside, right? We did point out that we do have this BOB that has been created, which is untested, right? We can see that we had a huge candle push towards the upside, right, with a smaller candle closure, right? Basically also indicating somewhat that, hey, you know what, the bulls, they are finding themselves taking some profits, right? They are taking some positions off, so there is a possibility for us then having that actual shift back towards the downside, right? So if the previous week, or well, this coming week, can take out the low, has somewhat of a closure below, there will be then a high possibility of us having a further continuation move back towards the downside. All right, but keep in mind that this is the Nasdaq, right? We are bullish in market structure still, right? So there is that possibility of us then just having that further continuation move back towards the upside. Okay, scaling to our daily time frame. Now on the daily time frame, this is basically where I will find myself preparing for a potential short, right? And this is what I will find myself looking out for. All right, so on the daily time frame, we can see once again we find ourselves creating a beautiful BOB, right? But we are finding ourselves being within our BOB, right? So there is still that possibility of us having a further continuation move back towards the upside from this area onwards, right? However, if we want to see price have that further continuation move back towards the downside, right, we have to see the Nasdaq have a closure below this actual down close candle right over here, right? Because the moment we're going to find ourselves having a closure below this area, this is when this will turn into an area of what? What do you think? What will it be? Will it be an area of supply? Will it be an area of demand? Here we can see that we do have an area of demand, so that over there will be an area of supply, right? If the price is right over here, above price will always be supply, right? Below price will always be demand. Okay, above price will always be supply, below price will always be demand. All right, so if we can see that closure below, right, this simply means that we will have that area of supply, and this is when we can grab out our Fibonacci from the high to wherever the low will be, right? And you know what, we can potentially see us then have somewhat of an actual pullback, and then see us have somewhat of a nice little shift back towards the downside, back into our area of demand, right? But keep in mind that we are still bullish in market structure, right? So we need to see a change in market structure first before we can actually be like, you know what, we are going to find ourselves having the shift back towards the downside. All right, so that will be my approach for wanting to see any shorts find itself opening up. All right, now let's look at the lows that we have found ourselves created right over here. Now over the course of, you know what, throughout this week, I did upload on my on my story that, you know what, we did find ourselves actually having a huge strong buy signal find itself coming through, right? And it was literally from this area onwards, and we can see that we did find ourselves having a beautiful 500 plus pip move back towards the upside. And this was simply because of what? This is something that we have been repeating over and over and over and over and over again, right? So we can basically see that we did find ourselves taking out those equal lows right over there. Liquidity has been taken, right? On a lower time frame, you find yourself monitoring price, waiting for price to have somewhat of an actual change in market structure, right? And after seeing that change in market structure, yeah, we can see that we do have some relatively equal highs coming through right over there, right? Over here, we can basically see that we did find ourselves having that actual that change in market structure. We find ourselves having a beautiful area of demand finding itself opening up right over there. Whether you looked at this as the area of demand, whether you looked at that as the area of demand, you know what, it will still remain significant, right? Some might find themselves looking at this whole area over here as the area of demand. You know what, it will still be quite significant. You know, you will still find yourself having the exact same result as well, right? However, we did find ourselves having that actual BOB find itself opening up. We can see we came back into our area of demand, and we can see we had a beautiful shift back towards the upside, right? If you looked at this area, same thing. There we had the closure below, came back for the retest. There we had the shift back towards the upside, right? From this area over here, closure above, came back for the retest, shift back towards the upside, right? Obviously with this one, your win to reward ratio would then be somewhere up there, right? Because you are going to find yourself risking more. But nonetheless, we find ourselves taking out those beautiful equal lows we have found ourselves creating, right? And let's see what is up as if now. Hey, where's my stuff? H4 time frame, right? We do know that overall this is the area to where we would love to see the Nasdaq find itself heading back into. All right. So, looking at our H4 time frame, right? One thing we can see the H4 time frame did find itself creating over here is also another area of demand. Well, yes, another area of demand right there. Right, we had the closure above. We never came back for the retest. Right, now if I want to see us have somewhat of an actual shift back towards the downside, my apologies. So if I want to see us have an actual shift back towards the downside, right, do I really want to see us have somewhat of a significant shift from this area, right, creating a new higher high? Not necessarily, right? Not necessarily. Why, D? Check this out. check this out. Okay, now this low right over here, or the equal lows we have found ourselves created. Let me do this. What's my rules, right? What is my rules when it comes down to equal lows, equal highs? So my rules is that, hey, if we're gonna find ourselves taking out equal lows as we have done, right? There is a low, there is a low. Liquidity has been taken. We had a shift back towards the upside. Now, what did I tell you guys? Whenever there's an equal low or an equal high, I look at a magnet below or above those areas, right? And here we can clearly see that we did find ourselves creating what? A BOB. Did we find ourselves tapping within our BOB? We haven't, right? We haven't. We literally missed that area. We missed that area right over there. So now, my outlook is like this. I'm going to find myself waiting on price to come all the way back down, back into our actual BOB we have found ourselves creating right over here, right? Let me just find myself waiting for this thing to open up over here. BOB. Boom. Just like that, right? And these equal lows over here, I can see that this low and that low is quite relatively equal as well, right? Because if I can go on a lower time frame, maybe let's go on a 1 hourly time frame. Okay, we can't see nothing there. Let's go on a 30-minute time frame. We can't really see nothing over there. Let's go to a 15-minute time frame. Here we can see something is up, right? So there we can see that we did find ourselves creating a swing low right over there, right? A low, high low to the right, and a high low to the left, right? Over here, what can we see? Price found itself doing over here as well. We created a swing low over there as well. So you know what? These lows, they are equal in my eyes. And with us basically having some relatively equal lows, right? This simply means that, you know what? There is a high possibility for us coming all the way back down, back into this area to do what? To basically take out somewhat of liquidity, right? So I'm gonna keep this on my charts as it is, as if now, right? So it would be cool if we can see somewhat of an actual shift back towards the downside, maybe back into our actual area of demand, right? Have somewhat of an actual shift back towards the upside, right? Back into back towards the upside, right? And then from this area have somewhat of an actual shift back towards the downside, because as of now we would then find ourselves creating somewhat of an actual change in market structure, right? We will then change the market structure from bullish to bearish. So this will be a clear indication that we can then find ourselves looking for some beautiful shorts to find itself opening up, right? Now fam, listen, at this point, can we say that we are going to find ourselves going short? Can we say that we are finding ourselves being bearish in market structure? No, we cannot, right? We are still bullish in market structure. We have to wait for a change in market structure and able to go short, right? And as if now, all I'm going to tell you guys is trade safe. Make sure to visit our Instagram page, right? Much love from me, your boy D. I'm going to see y'all in the next one. I'm out.